men see the law. A bad man, he has no moral conscience. He only cares about thinking, okay, if I rob this bank, what's going to happen to me? Well, there's some chance I rob it and all good, and there's a chance I get to jail, and if I get to jail, I can get this penalty, okay? And see, this is the idea of how law works according to Werner Holmes. And so what would a legal case look like in a prediction market? So let's see. It looks a bit like what we discussed before, like in the content moderation case. There's Alice and Bob, where both have a dispute between them, and both think they will win, and they will spend years and a lot of money to try to figure out what the judge thinks. But what if there is a market about their case? What if there's a market where people, traders who can be private investigators or people who have knowledge about this type of cases, can trade on who they think will win the case? And let's say that based on this prediction market, Alice has a 90% odds of winning. Well, maybe we don't need to do the actual trial, right? Maybe she can be just declared the winner, right? If market thinks that she is so much likely to win. And then other cases could be where there is way more difficult decision, where odds are more similar and it's not clear who would win. And these cases maybe could actually go to a trial, and the jury will decide who is right. And if Alice wins, then, well, there is a payout, and, well, people who thought she would win will get the money, okay? And there could be different applications of random trial quality control checks, where you could send a small percentage of cases randomly selected for actually a trial review, and then if the trial agrees with the market, the decision is confirmed, and the system continues. If the trial disagrees, then the market is overturned, the decision, and you could start adjusting the system based on how the trials are agreeing or not with the markets. And if you get too much of a disagreement, you increase the number of trials that you do for the quality control. So this is a mechanism that is actually quite fast and it's cheap. It could be a high accuracy system. It can be a self-correcting system based on this idea of the trials for correcting the parameters. And then, and this is most important, this can solve like millions and millions of cases and at very, very high speed, okay? I see your faces, and of course this sounds like a bit odd maybe, which I agree, but you know how the US criminal justice system has this tool of the plea bargaining? In this tool, what happens is that the prosecutor goes to the defendant and makes an offer of, okay, if you plead guilty, you will go to jail like 5 years. Otherwise, we will go to trial and we will press for 20 years. So now the defendant needs to think, okay, should I accept a certain probability, 100% probability of 5 years? Or should I like roll the dice, go to trial and see what happens? I might get out or get 20 years. It's like, you know, one of these TV shows where you have like the box of the incognito and you need to decide. And by the way, what percentage of cases do you think go to trial in the US courts? How much? 5%? More like 2%, yeah. 2% of cases go to trial. Vast majority are decided through a process of plea bargaining. And this is why some people call the system more like a system of pleas rather than a system of trials. And there's a lot of research about how this works and how this mechanism is problematic, because what happens usually is that the defendant is advised by many times a public lawyer, a public attorney who has no time, he's overworked, and the defendant doesn't have any knowledge about this. So it happens very, very often that this backfires a lot. And there's a famous article by Jed Rakoff, it's a judge, where he actually studies how many people end up pleading guilty for crimes they didn't commit just to avoid the risk of going to a trial and actually being found guilty and end up with a very, very high penalty. This is a very serious thing in the US system. Prediction markets could give a better estimate of the probability of a conviction. With that information, the defendant could make a more informed decision whether to accept the deal or go to trial, okay? And in time, if prediction markets are perceived as fair and accurate, defendants will probably rarely decide to go to court. Maybe they will just prefer just to accept the decision by the prediction market, as they see that it's a very high likelihood to correctly predict what would happen in court, and it would do it in like just a few days instead of like having to go to years. So to conclude, prediction markets are a very new tool with many new applications. You already know many of them in politics, I'm sure in predicting wars and things like that, but they also have the potential of helping access to justice. So there's obviously lots of friction to overcome. This is a very new mechanism. Law is a very conservative topic, but I think it would be worth experimenting with this type of mechanisms. At Kleros, we are just launching a new product called Kleros Foresight that we could, at some point, you stay tuned because we might do some tests of this. Of course, not in criminal cases. The criminal was just an example. Kleros is for more like commercial type of disputes. But this is something we are exploring quite closely now. And let me just close with another quote by Oliver Wendell Holmes that is about the future of law. For the rational study of the law, the black letter man may be the man of the present, but the man of the future is the man of statistics and the master of economics. So, thank you very much. You have the questions? Yeah.
Are there any questions?
Yeah.
Thank you, Federico. In the plea bargaining system, how does the plea offerer decide how much, years or what really to offer? Because that's the key. If he has a prediction market, he also maybe offer a higher plea because he's sure that he's going to get killed or not, or whatever, right?
So in the mechanism, so there is a defendant that is arrested and there's pending trial, and then the law under which he's going to be judged says that this is 15 to 20 years. So the prosecutor can tell him based on experience and based on, now people are even starting to use AI to predict. Okay, we offer you 5 years or take your chances in trial. And prosecutors typically give high, so they tend to scare the defendant because the system is built in such a way, so try to be efficient and not go to trial, so to save costs and all that. So what happens is that the prosecutor gives the defendant threatens with a very high penalty in case it goes to court, with the hope that the defendant will just, okay, even if I'm not guilty, I prefer to just plead guilty and go 2 or 5 years rather than risk 20 years. In a situation where there is also an asymmetry of power between the prosecutor, who is an expert, who knows the law very well, the defendant, who in many times is a poor person that is defended by a public defendant because doesn't have access to resources. So there is a big asymmetry, and many times the defendant will just try. This is what the thesis of the article about people plead guilty to avoid the risk of, so that's how it works.
We have another question.
How do you protect against market manipulation? Because in the justice system, that's a little bit different. But if someone's having a commercial dispute, they could just fund, their position with the money that they're saving from not having to go through the regular lawsuit process.
But what type of market manipulation do you mean?
Like if me or you in a dispute about commercials about this talk, and I'm like, I want to win, so I'll get people to fund me being the winner, and that would manipulate the market into thinking that my decision would be the right one.
Yeah, that is the type of manipulation that happens in every prediction market. So the standard, I guess, manipulation, anti-manipulation things, and there's also Kleros, potentially, even if Kleros is not used for this type of things, that, you could have like a verification that there was no misbehavior, there was no collusion. There is even a new discipline called computational antitrust that studies, analysis, on-chain analysis to understand if there was manipulation or not. So there's lots of different, tools that could be used. But I think the important thing here is that this gives an estimate that is public. It's not something that was done like by the prosecutor and negotiated like just in a private room. So this can give everyone the idea that this is a public like a market where people can participate. And then you could also decide not everyone can participate. You could also decide only the accredited lawyers from whatever. So you could also structure it in different ways so to avoid different types of manipulation. Yes?
Okay, a quick one. We have just 1 minute.
Got it, thank you. You'd mentioned people using AI agents to kind of make judgments. Like, I guess, what do you think about the involvement of AI in these kinds of rulings, in this kind of prediction market?
Watch my talk from last ATC. No, okay, this is already old. I mean, using AI to predict decisions in the legal system is old. There's companies like Premonition, Lex Machina that has been doing this for like more than 10 years. Now, and I don't have much time, but we are actually at Kleros using AI jurors to understand how they would vote in different cases, and this is coming, and you can see, based on our experiments, that different jurors, different AIs can reach different decisions in the same case. So even if you have AI, you don't want to have like one AI, you want to have a panel of AIs doing the decision. So it's long.
Thanks a lot. And if you have any questions, you can ask it outside. Thank you.
Thank you.